She never expected to be staring down the barrel of a gun in a dark Los Angeles alleyway, flanked by two twitchy gangsters and the stench of old garbage. Not her. Not Meryl Streep. She was supposed to be untouchable. Hollywood royalty, the kind of person bad things did not happen to. But fame meant nothing in that moment. The street did not care who she was. And when the taller one stepped closer, whispering something about a message, she realized this was no mugging. This was a warning, and what she did next would leave them sprinting into the night. The air smelled like engine oil, piss, and something metallic, probably blood. It clung to the back of Meryl's throat, making her gag as she pressed her back against the cold brick wall. She could hear the thump of her own heartbeat in her ears, drowning out the distant sounds of the city. It was just past midnight, and the alley off 5th and Broadway was quiet in a way that felt unnatural. Too quiet. The kind of quiet that preceded a storm, or something worse. She had been filming. Late. Reshoots for a gritty indie drama set downtown, the kind of project she loved, raw, human, imperfect. Everyone had left hours ago, but she had insisted on staying behind. Just a few moments alone on the empty lot, watching the city breathe. It was something she did when a role consumed her. Meryl did not just act, she became. But tonight, it had consumed too much. The driver was late, her phone was dead. So she decided to walk the 2 blocks to her hotel. What could possibly happen? In 2 blocks? She told herself that right up until the moment she saw them. 2 figures, both young and twitchy, had been waiting at the end of the alley. She thought maybe they were fans at first. That had happened before. People recognizing her in odd places, asking for selfies, gushing over her roles. She was used to attention. What she was not used to was the glint of a knife and the expression on the shorter one's face. Numb, but purposeful. They had followed her into the alley. There was no mistaking it. She turned around instinctively, retracing her steps. But the second man had already flanked the entrance behind her. Trapped. "Look who it is," one of them said, the taller one, with pitted skin and a permanent scowl. The Queen herself. Meryl stood very still. Her first instinct, surprisingly, was not panic. It was disbelief, not fear, just this surreal sense that it could not possibly be real. That she of all people could not be standing here like this. But reality had a sharp edge, especially when it came in the form of a trembling switchblade. "I do not have anything," she said quietly, calmly even. "You can take whatever you want." It was the wrong thing to say, the shorter one laughed. "We know, that is not why we are here." And that was when the chill truly set in. This was not a robbery. She could read people. It was part of her craft, the way they shifted their weight, the way they avoided eye contact, the way their hands clenched involuntarily when they were lying. These 2 were scared, but not of her. They were scared of something else, or someone else. That was the worst part. They were not here for money. They were not even here on their own terms. They were here with a message. "You got too close," the tall one muttered. "You talked to someone you shouldn't have." "Talked to many people," she replied, searching for time, for an opening, for something that would make sense. "You are going to have to be more specific." "You were seen," the other added. "Last night, talking to a guy in the green jacket. What did he tell you?" It clicked. She remembered the man. Tall, Hispanic, mid-30s, nervous. She had thought he was another production assistant. He had come up to her after the shoot, polite, fidgety, looking over his shoulder like someone was chasing him. He had shoved something into her hand, a flash drive, told her to give it to the director, said it had to do with the financing of the film. Then he vanished before she could even ask his name. She had not even looked at the drive. Apparently someone else had. Meryl's pulse began to quicken, but she kept her expression neutral. If there was one thing she knew how to do under pressure, it was perform. Only this time her audience was armed. I do not know what you are talking about, she said, voice even. The shorter one stepped closer, hand on the knife hilt. We were told to send a message. She realized they were amateurs, thrown into something bigger than they could handle. But a knife was still a knife. Panic started to creep in at the edges of her thoughts. She did not know what was on that drive. She did not know who these people worked for. All she knew was that she was alone, cornered, and nobody knew where she was. And that was the moment something shifted inside her. Meryl Streep was a lot of things. An actress, a mother, a woman who had weathered the worst of Hollywood's storms. But she was not a victim. She had played too many broken women to let herself become one. Not here. Not like this. She took a breath. A plan started to form. It was funny, in a way. Not funny like laughter, but the kind of irony that made you clench your teeth and bite your tongue. She had played women who had survived war zones, outwitted serial killers, even led nations. But now, standing in the grimiest corner of downtown Los Angeles with two boys barely out of adolescence trying to intimidate her, Meryl felt more exposed than she had in her entire career. And yet, something in her clicked. She was not just an actress. She was a professional at pretending. And if she could not overpower them physically, she would outmaneuver them psychologically. She knew the type. Shaky loyalty, uncertain motives, bravado trying to mask fear. And underneath it all, a desperate need for approval. From whoever sent them. The tall one shifted his stance again, looking over his shoulder. Nervous. That was her in. You do not want to do this, she said, softly this time, like she was offering them an out. Whatever you think I know, I don't. And if you hurt me, you will bring down the kind of attention you do not even know how to run from. They both flinched slightly at that. The tall one, whose jacket sleeves were torn at the cuffs, lowered his knife by half an inch. He was not ready. Not really. He wanted her afraid. He wanted to scare her into silence, not into resistance. The shorter one was more volatile, restless, eyes darting to the alley entrance and then back to her. You do not understand, he hissed. You were seen. They are watching everything now. They think you are involved. Involved in what? She asked, genuinely curious now. She had not looked at the drive, but someone must have. And whatever it contained had triggered something far uglier than corporate fraud or mishandled funds. She was beginning to realize this was bigger, darker than she imagined. The short one did not answer. He stepped closer. Too close. His blade was inches from her now. Give us the flash drive, he demanded. Meryl's mind spun. She had left it in her purse, back in her trailer. Unopened, untouched. Completely forgotten, honestly, until this moment. It is not with me, she said, careful with her words. It is in a safe place. That was technically true. The trailer lock was secure, and the studio lot had surveillance. But logic was not going to save her here. She needed to act. So she did something they never saw coming. She laughed. It started as a chuckle, dry, almost amused. And then it grew, sharp, echoing off the brick walls of the alley like something unhinged. The two men froze. She watched their confusion rise like steam. It was not the reaction they had prepared for. She saw the hesitation in their eyes, the flicker of doubt. You think this is the first time someone has tried to scare me? She said, voice steady now, firm. You think I do not know what people like you are told to do? You are not killers. You are pawns. You were sent to intimidate someone you thought would beg, cry, plead. But you picked the wrong woman. The short one faltered, the point of his knife dipping. His hand was shaking now. You think this is about you? She continued, stepping forward for the first time. You have no idea who is behind this. You are scared, because you should be. But I am not. Because I have seen what fear does, and I do not let it own me. Her voice had changed now, commanding, deliberate. It was not a performance. It was not acting. It was something primal. She was no longer playing a part. She was being Meryl. The woman who had stood in front of millions and delivered words that changed hearts. The woman who had learned the ugly truths of the world behind studio lights and polished scripts. The woman who had faced predators in expensive suits and never flinched. The boys were unraveling. "I say we go," the tall one muttered, shifting his weight. "She is not lying." "She has it," the shorter one snapped. But his words had lost weight. His confidence cracked. "She is not alone," the tall one added, voice hushed. "Someone like her. People know where she is. We are not supposed to touch her." That was it. The break she needed. Meryl took a step closer, her eyes locking onto the shorter one. "You do not want to do this," she repeated. "If you run now, you can still walk away. But if you lay a hand on me, I promise you, you will not be the one who suffers. It will be your sister, your mother, your girlfriend, whoever they are using to control you." His face changed. Just for a split second, she had hit something raw. "How do you know that?" he asked, voice breaking. "I know. A lot more than you think," she lied. "And so do the people who are watching this alley." She was gambling everything on instinct now. No backup, no cameras, just fear, and the fact that hers was better disguised. The tall one grabbed the other's arm. "We are done. This is a setup. She is bait." "Bait?" he asked, confused. Meryl stepped forward again, standing straight now, fearless. "If I was bait," she said, "you would already be dead." They bolted. It was not graceful or cinematic. It was panic, pure and unfiltered. They turned and ran like scared animals, their footsteps thudding down the alley as they vanished into the city's underbelly. And just like that, she was alone again. Meryl stood there for several seconds, unmoving. The adrenaline was still flooding her system, but her hands were steady. Her breathing was slow. She had not been acting, not this time. She had found something in herself, something ancient, something real. She reached into her coat pocket for her dead phone, still lifeless. She laughed again, but it was softer this time, more out of awe than amusement. Then she turned, walked back toward the studio lot, and did not look back. She had questions now. Too many. Who was the man with the flash drive? What was on it? And who exactly had sent those boys? But for now, she was alive, and she had just scared 2 would-be gangsters into running for their lives. Meryl did not sleep that night. She sat on the edge of the hotel bed, arms wrapped around her knees, staring out the window as downtown Los Angeles blinked silently below. The city looked different now, less alive, more like a mask. Everything had changed. The comfort she once found in its buzz and chaos was gone, replaced by something colder. Something watched. She kept replaying the alley in her head. The fear. The switchblade. The way the taller boy kept glancing over his shoulder like he was being monitored. They had been following orders. But whose? And why her? By morning, her driver had been alerted, the production team was scrambling, and the studio had offered private security. They had no idea what really happened. She told them it had been a misunderstanding, 2 fans who got too close. She let them believe it, because the truth was insane and dangerous. Her trailer was still locked. She opened her bag slowly, hands shaking just a little now that the adrenaline was gone. There, at the bottom beneath a script and a crumpled scarf, sat the flash drive. Small, silver, harmless looking. Her thumb hovered over it. She told herself not to look, that whatever it was not her responsibility. But it was too late for that. The contents loaded slowly on her laptop, screen flickering once before opening. At first it looked like a ledger, just numbers, bank accounts, coded entries. But the deeper she dug, the more it revealed. Offshore transactions, fake production, budgets, shell companies routed through Eastern Europe, millions in laundered money flowing through a web of fake film investments, and the names attached to them were not nobodies. They were familiar, executives, producers, A-list celebrities, and one, in particular, made her stomach turn. Douglas Reen, he, was one of the co-financiers of her current film. Charming, generous, known for hosting lavish charity events and rubbing elbows with politicians. But there he was, tied to 6 different offshore accounts and a defunct film studio linked to criminal enterprises in Mexico and Thailand. Meryl felt sick. She remembered Reen at the wrap party, his hand on her back, whispering that he believed in her talent, how he was honored to work with her. Now she realized he was not complimenting her. He was staking his claim, and whoever had given her this drive, whoever that nervous man in the green jacket was, he had been trying to expose all of it. A knock on the hotel room door jolted her. Out of the spiral, 3 quick raps, a pause, then 2 more. She froze. Security was not scheduled to arrive until noon, and she had not told anyone about the flash drive. She approached the door slowly, looked through the peephole, and saw nothing. No one. She took a step back. Her mind raced. Had they come back? Then something slid under the door. A white envelope. She waited a full minute before picking it up. Her fingers trembled slightly now. Inside was a single sheet of paper, typed, no signature. If you value your life, you will not speak. Destroy the drive. Walk away. This is not your war. Meryl read it twice. Then she laughed again. Only this time, it was bitter, exhausted, almost broken. She could walk away. She could go to the press, spin it as paranoia. Say nothing, let it fade. After all, she had done nothing wrong. But if she had learned anything from the past 24 hours, it was that silence was never neutral. It was complicit. And she had never been good at pretending to know nothing. She grabbed her phone and dialed the only number she could trust, Samantha Coe, an old friend, investigative journalist, former war correspondent, and the godmother to Meryl's youngest daughter. They had not spoken in months, but Meryl knew Sam would understand. "You sound like hell," Sam said when she picked up. "I need to show you something," Meryl said, "and I need you to promise me something first." There was a pause. "Anything. You do not ask questions until I finish. You do not interrupt. And when I tell you to run, you run. Deal?" Another pause. Then, "Deal." They met at an abandoned diner in Glendale 2 hours later. Neutral ground, cameras off, phones off. Sam listened without blinking as Meryl laid it all out, starting with the man in the green jacket and ending with the envelope slid under her door. Sam's face darkened as she flipped through the files. "This is huge," she whispered. "Do you understand what you are holding?" "I do now," Meryl said. "People have died for less." "I know." Sam looked up. "What are you going to do?" Meryl hesitated. "I do not know yet," she admitted. "But I am not going to disappear." Sam nodded. "Then we are in this together." It was not heroic. It was not triumphant. It was terrifying. But in that moment, sitting across from someone who had faced down warlords and dictators, Meryl felt something she had not felt since the alley. Clarity. They had tried to scare her into silence. Instead, they had pulled her into the light. She would not be the face of their secrets, not willingly. And if they wanted a war, they had just started one. The press tour resumed that Thursday. They flew her to New York, dolled her up in a custom Navy suit, and ushered her through the revolving doors of a high-rise for a primetime late-night interview. The city moved around her like a wave, lights flashing, cameras clicking, stylists fussing. And yet inside, she felt like glass, clear, still, fragile, but not broken. It was surreal. Sitting in that makeup chair, powder brushing her cheekbones, she realized she was living two lives. One as the actress everyone saw, poised, timeless, safe. The other, secret and silent, hiding just beneath the surface like a live wire. Sam had taken the drive. Thank God. She had contacts in Europe, people who owed her favors, people who had encrypted tunnels and dark web routes and protocols for exactly this kind of thing. They would not run the story yet. Too dangerous. But they had begun verifying. Names. One by one, the dots were connecting. A film fund in Prague, a shell company in Panama, a dead assistant producer who accidentally overdosed last spring. The patterns were unmistakable. Someone was using Hollywood as a front. Not for glamour, not for art, for money laundering, for trafficking, for disappearances wrapped in expensive red carpet events and empty award speeches. And Meryl, without even knowing it, had been circling the edge of it for years. The man in the green jacket had not picked her by mistake. He had chosen her for a reason. 5 minutes, the assistant director called. Meryl nodded. As the lights dimmed in the studio and the audience's hum turned into polite applause, she walked to center stage, heels clicking softly beneath her. She smiled, waved, sat down across from the host, and answered every question with the grace expected of her. But something had changed. She was not just reciting talking points. She was listening, watching, feeling for any clue that this world, the one she had built her life around, might still be infected by the rot she had just begun to see. Then, halfway through the interview, it happened. A simple question from the host. You have always played powerful women, strong, intelligent, layered. Do you ever feel unsafe, being so visible in today's world? The audience chuckled. It was meant as a compliment. But she saw it then, the tiniest flicker behind. The cameraman's eyes. The way a grip in the back corner shifted slightly when she hesitated. A shiver of something. Not fear. Awareness. They were here. Someone was watching, and she was done pretending. She leaned forward, voice calm but deliberate. I think visibility is both a blessing and a warning, she said. People look at women like me and think, she is untouchable. But no one is, not really. And the moment you believe that, you stop paying attention. You stop asking questions. That is when the real danger begins. The host blinked. The audience was quiet. She smiled. It is a strange time to be a woman in power, she added. Strange and revealing. And just like that, the mood shifted, subtle but real. The conversation moved on, but her words lingered like a ghost in the room. After the interview, she slipped out the back. No after-party, no champagne. Sam was waiting in a borrowed sedan, engine running. They traced one of the bank accounts. To a guy named Victor Lang, Sam said as they pulled away from the curb. Former producer. Disappeared 5 years ago. Apparently he was working on a documentary about corruption in the industry. Meryl's chest tightened. Let me guess, she said. Never finished it? Never even got past the outline, Sam said grimly. They wiped everything. And the man in the green jacket? We have nothing, Sam said. No ID, no trace. Whoever he was, he is either in hiding or gone. Meryl looked out the window as the lights blurred by. She felt heavier now. Not with fear, with responsibility. They will not stop, will they? Sam shook her head. No. But neither will we. They drove in silence for a while. The city stretched on like a dream. At a red light, Sam looked over. You know, she said, you could walk away. No one would blame you. You are Meryl Streep. You have earned your peace. But Meryl just smiled. I think peace is the problem, she said softly. It lets people like Reen hide behind it. She reached into her coat pocket and pulled out the envelope, the one that had warned her to stay silent. She had carried it everywhere since that night. A reminder, a message, a line drawn in the sand, Without another word, she opened the window and let it slip into the wind. Gone, not forgotten, but no longer hers to carry. Meryl once believed stories were everything. She believed they saved us, that words, told honestly and fearlessly, could shape the world into something softer, kinder, more just. She had spent a lifetime chasing roles that told the truth, peeling back layers of grief and love and ambition, becoming women who had survived. War, betrayal, madness, fame. She thought she knew what darkness looked like. But nothing on a soundstage ever came close to the quiet evil hiding in plain sight. The kind that did not wear a villain's costume or speak in threats. The kind that smiled from behind million-dollar smiles. The kind that handed you champagne and whispered, "You're brilliant," as it turned human lives into collateral damage. Weeks passed. The headlines moved on. Publicly, nothing happened. There was no breaking exposé, no sudden arrests, no firestorm. But behind the scenes, everything was changing. The files Sam had sent abroad were real, verified. A slow-burn investigation had been opened in 3 different countries. Lang's name had been quietly restored to the credits of his last known project. Small ripples, invisible to most. But Meryl watched each one like a mother watches her child's first breath. Quiet, private, but deeply, painfully, real. Still, she said nothing publicly. Not yet. Some days she wanted to. She would walk past a reporter or sit through another hollow interview and feel her fingers twitch. But she knew better now. The people behind this were patient and brutal. Exposure had to be earned, not forced. Instead, she waited, watched, learned. She began to change the way she chose roles. She turned down scripts from 2 major studios tied to shell companies she now recognized. She started asking questions during contract negotiations, questions no one in her position had ever asked before. Where was the funding coming from? Who owned the back-end rights? Who was actually paying for the location permits? Her agents thought she was losing her mind, but she knew she was finally seeing clearly. She met with younger actors in secret, people who had whispered to her at rap parties, too scared to say things aloud. She listened, connected dots, planted seeds. Quiet. Resistance. It was not flashy, it was not loud, but it was growing. The night everything came full circle was colder than usual. Autumn in New York. She was walking back to her apartment after a fundraiser, a real one this time for a women's legal defense group, and she found herself alone again, just for a moment. The street was empty, wind curling at her coat. A man stepped out from behind a parked van, her heart seized, but he did not come close. He just stood there, one hand in his pocket, head tilted slightly. She recognized the coat before she saw the face. Green, frayed, familiar. "You," she whispered. The man looked older, exhausted. He had lost weight. "I did not know where else to go," he said. "I thought you might still be." "I am," she said. He nodded. "They know about the leak. They will come for me. I do not have much time." Meryl stepped forward. "Why me?" He gave a tired smile. "Because I watched you play Margaret Thatcher and Julia Child and Sophie Zawistowski, and I thought, if anyone could hold a secret this heavy and still walk upright, it would be her." Meryl blinked hard. The cold stung. Her eyes. "I was just acting." "No," he said. "You were preparing." She wanted to ask more, but he stepped back. From his coat pocket, he pulled out a single flash drive. A different one. "This is the rest," he said. "Names, schedules, drop points. It is not enough to tell people what happened. You have to prove it. You have to finish it." Meryl took it. He turned and disappeared into the dark as quickly as he had come. She never saw him again, but she did not need to. She had work to do. Months later, she found herself standing in front of a university auditorium, a women in film symposium. Dozens of fresh-faced young women sat before her, wide-eyed, clutching notebooks. Some wanted to direct, others wanted to act. All of them, without knowing it, were about to inherit the industry Meryl had helped shape. She looked at them for a long moment before speaking. "I used to think bravery was loud," she said finally. "I used to think it looked like protest signs and courtroom speeches. But sometimes bravery is just staying. It is staying in a place that tried to scare you away. It is refusing to let someone else write your ending." They were quiet, listening. She could feel them leaning in. "I was scared," she continued. "Not once, not twice, but every single time I stood in front of a camera and told a story that mattered. Because stories matter, and people who do, bad things know that. That is why they try to buy the storytellers." A few students nodded. She paused, then added softly, "Do not let them." That was all she said. She walked off stage to polite applause. But she had seen it, in their faces. Fire. Meryl Streep no longer walked with the same ease she once did. She carried weight now, history, knowledge, danger. But it did not bow her. It straightened her, grounded her, made her real in a way that no Oscar ever could. She had been cornered in a back alley by boys with knives and eyes full of someone else's orders. She had been warned, threatened, watched, but in the end, she had not run. She had chosen the story, the true one. And now, she was living it. Not just as a performer, but as a witness. And in a world full of scripts, that was the most powerful role she had ever played.